So let's get started and see what we have. It's always a surprise to me. So, as may have been apparent, I have been exposing or deflating some of the teachings we have all been exposed to since the time we were able to learn. Teachings, tenets, ideology, doctrine, and creeds that are supposed to be unquestioned, undisputed, and incontrovertible. So, contrary to what I've been saying the last few weeks and months, however, most of us still think of ourselves as individuals, or at least exist as individuals who have a free will in a world of objects. Look around and see for yourself. Life is populated with things. And they appear to be separate from each other. And we also know that we can act. No, not in Hollywood, but on almost anything we choose to act on, such as opening the door, or washing our hands, or taking a walk. The philosophy that I have been teaching from recently, Advaita, occasionally taking from Plato and on occasion from A Course in Miracles, but Advaita in particular says that there are not two things. That's what Advaita means. A means not, and Dvaita or Dvaita means not two. So in essence, if there are not two things, then there can be no action possible, and hence we cannot act. Everything that we imagine to be happening is not happening, but rather is being imagined or thought to be happening. The self, remember this is the self with a capital S, is that which is behind everything, but of itself does nothing. There's no action there. The self is the reality behind all appearances, itself unknowable. It does nothing but all apparent activity takes place through its power and against its background. We are awareness, which by virtue of this body-mind complex can see, hear, speak, etc. The body-mind sees, hears, speaks, acts, but we do not. Everything takes place within this awareness, but this awareness itself, which is what we truly are, is beyond all movement, beyond space, time, causality, and language. As the sage Shankara explains, it's like looking at the clouds moving against the backdrop of the sky on a moonlit night. We've all done that. While we look at the clouds, it appears that the moon is also moving. But when we look directly at the moon, we see that it's stationary. And it is the clouds which move by. Now, if I don't plug my computer in, it's going to die. So excuse me while I do that. So when we look directly at the moon, we see that it is stationary and it is the clouds which are moving. Similarly, while we direct our attention to the body or the mind or the intellect, we conclude that we are moving and acting and thinking. But when we look at the situation from another perspective, a higher level, from the standpoint of the Atma, the higher self, we realize that activities belong only to the body, directed by the mind, while we, the Atma, remain still and detached. Just as the clouds are only visible by virtue of the light from the moon, so too we are conscious of the body-mind only by virtue of the self, which again is beyond all action, all thinking, all doing. So why do I teach this stuff? Why do I teach all these seemingly arcane things that we might think are better left to the philosophers of the world? Because all of this information applies to our daily lives. If we undertake a project or a mission, or we are super passionate about something and we wish to get involved, make a difference, change the world, we need to draw from many sources to make a level-headed point. But we also need to maintain a level of balance within us to help guide us through the times when disagreements arise, because they will. Altercations occur, they will. Feelings get hurt, they will. Everything I teach is of and from a spiritual perspective. If this perspective is not maintained throughout our day, if it's not practiced and reinforced, if it's not part of our own constitution, then we either are or will become lost, and our personality becomes aligned with the ego, not spirit. And that's not a good thing at all. We will get angry. We will get fired up. We will become righteous. We will believe we are right and others are wrong when aligned with the ego. If we do not maintain an inner balance, a stillness, and a harmony with all that is, we will become what we project onto others, and those projections are usually not so complimentary. It is worth noting, too, that we project only that which we think and feel about ourselves. So if we think someone is an idiot, chances are very high that subconsciously, fingers are pointing back at us. So we have to step it up, each one of us, not a little, but immensely. So here's a poem that gets my point across, and it's from the Sufi poet Rumi. The lamps are different, but the light is the same. It comes from beyond. If you keep looking at the lamp, you are lost. For thence arises the appearance of number and plurality. Fix the gaze upon the light, and you are divested from dualism, inherent in this finite body, which happens to be the home of the ego. O thou who are the kernel of existence, the disagreement between all depends only on viewpoint. Okay, so now let's take a look at consciousness. We've talked about this before, but the word conscious is derived from the Latin conscere, meaning to know with, and it originally referred to insights that we shared with others. That is knowledge in the sense of truths, not information, but knowledge. It's of a higher order. Later, the word conscious came to be used when talking about knowledge that was secret, shared amongst only a few. By the 1st century, it was used for private knowledge, only known to the individual. And now when Latin was absorbed into the English language, the word conscious was used to refer to private thoughts and emotions, and the word conscience was used for private knowledge deliberately withheld from others. So do you see what has happened here? In a very short time, the original usage of the word became so distorted that its meaning became completely opposite of its original meaning. This is what is known as upside down thinking, and it denotes ego dominance. Ego dominance is prevalent in our society. We have lost connection with spirit. Nevertheless, we think we know what consciousness is. We think we know. We are fully conscious when we are awake. We are unconscious if knocked out or anesthetized or when in deep sleep. But when it comes right down to it, we might concede that we have no idea what consciousness is, yet would argue that we have it. One thing that is agreed upon is that there are states of consciousness. There's the waking state, the sleeping or dreaming state, and the deep sleep state. There is a 4th state that I'll mention a little later, and it is considered the only one that is real. So that means the waking state and the sleep state and the deep sleep state are not. So, in the waking state, such as what we are in right now, at this very moment, and what we consider to be a state of full consciousness, it may surprise some to learn that we are as asleep right now as we seem to be when laying down in our bed at night dreaming. The two states, waking and dreaming, are differentiated only by an illusory concept of wakefulness during our waking hours versus a similarly illusory concept of sleep during our sleeping or dreaming hours. They are equally unreal in reality. That's reality with a capital R. However, because we believe in waking and sleeping segments in our lives, we have come to believe that that which is seemingly experienced is reality. That which we seemingly experience is reality. That's what we think. That's what we believe. That's what we base our whole lives on. Waking, sleeping, waking, sleeping, waking, sleeping. It's really waking, shower, job, eat, TV, sleep. Wake, shower, job, eat, TV, sleep. Day in and day out, with a few variations and maybe a vacation. Each of these states is unreal, as far away from what is real as could be imagined. It is part of the dream in which we believe in the concepts we use: time, space, causality, action, and language, that keep us rooted into believing what we've always believed, that our childhood beliefs are true and accurate, if not gospel. However, as I noted last week, both philosophers and scientists alike have poked credible holes in that which we believe, but that information is mainly kept hidden from us, as we are kept busy studying English, math, and science in our younger years, advanced versions of the same in our young adult years, and our job for the rest of our lives. So few of us have the opportunity to break away from the pre-programmed rituals we have learned. So let's delve into the states of consciousness and explore them once again, because we've talked about these many months ago. In the sleeping or dreaming state, as it is referred to, we are aware of many things, all of which are manufactured in the mind. Whole worlds are made up using space, time, language, and causal rules. We may be ourselves in the dream playing familiar roles, or we may play the part of someone else with totally unfamiliar lines when we dream. The script is wide open and fluid when we are asleep and dreaming, and we are the director, the writer, actors or actresses, plural, and stage crew. While dreaming, the fantastical may seem real and normal. Even the improbable is accepted without question. The normal functioning of the mind, manas and buddhi, manas is the lower mind and buddhi is the higher mind or intellect, they remain in a state of rest or low activity, so that the abnormal is accepted without challenge. Desires that are normally subdued may blossom while dreaming, and it is only upon awakening that the dreamer views the dream differently, as in, wow, that was weird. The key point to note is that when we awaken from sleep, and its many adventures, dreams, we know immediately that the dream was not real. It was not true. And it is sublated by the waking experience. When we move into the waking state, questions may arise as to the realities of the waking and dreaming states. Again, the script is wide open and fluid, and we are the director, the writer, the actor, and the actress. And yes, the other actors and actresses, but we don't think of it that way. And we are the stage crew. We also don't think of it that way, because we all think that everything happens to us. While awake, the fantastical is deemed real and normal. Even the improbable is accepted, just like in the dream. Maybe with questions, maybe without. Desires that are normally subdued may remain subdued. Events that occur in the world while awake are viewed with the same, wow, that was weird. So there's a story in the Indian tradition. It's the story of King Janaka, who had a very realistic and to him frightening dream that he was a beggar. Upon awakening, he had doubts as to whether he was the king dreaming he was a beggar, or if he was a beggar who presumed to be king. He summoned his advisors to help him with this quandary, but they were of no help. Finally, after a while, he summoned the sage Ashtavakra, who explained that he was neither the king nor the beggar, but the self. That's with a capital S. This story is told to motivate us to question whether we are the waking personality, or the sleeping dreaming personality, or the self, and to question if there is a difference between waking and dreaming such that we consider one real and the other unreal. We are forced to conclude that while sleeping and dreaming, we believe the dream is real. At no time during our dreams, unless you have a lucid dream, and that's rare, at no time during our dreams do we question its veracity, even though it is totally made up in the imaginings of our mind. We are under the influence, so to speak, of nothing more than our very own thoughts and viewpoints. It is only when we awaken that the dream, seen from the vantage point of wakefulness, is known to have been unreal, only in appearance, in the dream state. This viewpoint helps us to understand how our ordinary sense of self, our waking ego, can be illusory. We know that the sense of ourself in a dream, the dream ego, is every bit as real at the time of our dreaming as our waking ego seems to us right now. Right now, we all think we're awake, and I contend we are dreaming, and so does most of the philosophies on the planet. And yet we are perfectly happy to discard the dream and the dream ego as illusory upon awakening, thinking this is it, this is real, this is life. So what is so special about the waking state that we believe it to be real, while we think, rather we know, the sleeping state to be just a dream? What is so different about the waking state from the dreaming state? There is no difference. Everything that occurs in one occurs in the other. Both are populated with people, objects, thoughts and feelings, scenario, drama, language, situations, and the list goes on. Both have a subject, you, who is seemingly separate and special from all the other characters and objects. Both have brainwave states that are similar. You can attain the same brainwave states fully conscious or fully asleep. So can we think of any difference between these two states that would justify calling one of them real and the other unreal? Are we convinced that there is not another state of consciousness that will not sublate the waking state as the waking state sublates the dreaming state? If one of the characters in our dreams asks us whether we, while dreaming, were asleep or not, what would we, the dreamer, say? We would all respond that we are awake while dreaming, because in that moment, while dreaming, that dream is as real to us as we seem to be right now while seemingly awake. All that we see is a dream, whether we see it in the dream state or in the waking state. On account of some arbitrary standards about the duration of experience and so on, we call one experience a dream and another waking. With reference to reality, with a capital R, neither experience is real. And yet, we claim that we are awake right now and will be asleep tonight when dreaming. We say we are both wakers and dreamers, just not at the same time. If we can be both a dreamer while asleep and someone who is awake, then neither is our true nature. It's similar to having thoughts and being able to think about those thoughts. That points to the fact that we cannot be the thoughts if we have the ability to think about them. That is, who is that which is thinking about the thoughts we think we think? Are you with me? The philosophy of Advaita says that people and objects that occupy our waking lives are appearances only, to be given no more reality than the manufactured world of our dreams, which is of course what Advaita is saying. This is a manufactured world in our waking state. A Course in Miracles says the same thing. Just as things seem to happen in our dreams without anyone pulling the strings, so too in our waking lives. No one does anything because there are no individual entities that could do anything. We are merely dreamed characters in the play called Leela that we are dreaming. If you're not familiar with that, you can look it up. Leela. L-I-L-A. Now, if what I just said isn't enough, let's take a look at the third state of consciousness. We're not going to spend much time here. It's called the deep sleep state. In this state, the ego is not at all conscious. All the functions of the mind are closed down, so that neither the external nor the eternal are cognized or recognized. Recognized? There is no sense of I, nor are there any thoughts, perceptions, or desires. Effectively, deep sleep is very close to our true nature. It is most blissful and one that is necessary for replenishment, refreshment, rejuvenation. Well, where does the rejuvenation come from? We did not eat while sleeping, so how do we get our energy or rejuvenation while sleeping? We did not get a massage, so why do we feel so good when we have a good, deep, restful sleep? But when we have that, it is noticed upon awakening. Why? How? It occurs when we come into contact or close proximity with self, our true nature. That can occur during deep sleep. When we awaken from a deep sleep, who is it that says, I had a great sleep and rested well? It's certainly not the waking ego, known as Vishva, as it was not present during deep sleep. The ego goes away during deep sleep. So who is asking that question or making that statement? At the time of deep sleep, there is actually no awareness of anything. Effectively, the experience of deep sleep is beyond the cognition of the waking mind. So this question is something to contemplate to begin the journey of awakening fully, whereupon sleep is no longer required. The fourth and last state of consciousness is turiya, or total awareness. It is attained through meditation. Turiya is essentially awakening from the waking state, or looked at another way, awakening to the deep sleep state, wherein we realize that all three states, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, are interim states that we have chosen to experience while in this illusion. We talked about turiya at quite some length months and months ago, so I'm not going to revisit it. These topics should inspire us not only to marvel, that was fascinating, but lead us to change our lives, to explore with fascination and reflection, such that we begin reading and researching topics of depth, not New Age or ego-related subjects, but bona fide spiritual and philosophic topics that lead us to question our own reality. Who am I? Next time we meet, I will take on or talk about the topics of death and reincarnation. It may be a fascinating subject, so stay alive until the next time so that we can explore supposed death and beyond. Have a happy day, everybody. Enjoy this beautiful day.